Welcome to this special program. Today it's International Women's Day. We have a few hours remaining for the day. And tonight I am privileged to be joined by an amazing, truly amazing group of women. I have with me this evening the chairwoman of the Women for Change, the women's arm of the Alliance for Change, Nicola Brotman. I have from Region 6 and also the Vice Chairperson of WFC, Camille. I have from the YFC, the youth arm of the Alliance for Change, Fina Pan. I have Nalini. I will ask Nalini to bring up her video so that we can see her pretty face. And of course, I have a fellow member of Parliament, Kathy Hughes. Ladies, this is such an honor, such a privilege. International Women's Day 2025 under the theme Accelerate Action. And I want to start off. I'm not going to call names this evening because I know you're all very articulate women. I know that you have so many ideas that you want to share. I think the only thing that's going to be short this evening is the time for us to get through this discussion. But I want to start with us discussing what are some of the major challenges you girls see as facing us as women in 2025 in an oil-rich economy. Come on, don't be shy. I
Yes,
know. Don't fool the
of
public. You girls are
cost,
not shy.
cost of living, cost of living.
Cost of living.
Yeah, cost of living.
Nicola,
Cost of living and opportunities for women.
what are your
The
thoughts,
cost of
Fina?
living is the biggest one, Beverly.
Fina, you agree it's the cost of living?
I do agree with cost of living, yes.
Yeah, and where's Nalini? I want to see Nalini's face. Come, Nalini, please don't hide from our audience. Cost of living. Over the years, and especially within the past, I would say 24 months or so, we have seen basic food items going up 200%, 300%. Even basic vegetables produced right here in Guyana, we have seen the prices just skyrocketing. And usually, the task of putting a meal on the table rests with the women. It is our responsibility to make sure our families are fed, and not only fed, but fed nutritious meals. And I will come back to that in a minute, where we look at how it is affecting the education of our system. But girls, what do you think should be done to address the cost of living? If we can start with Tati, probably as a
Sure,
member of
sure,
parliament,
sure. This is a very real issue that affects everybody, and it's been. I mean, we've been talking about it almost for the last year, and I think the only solution at this point in time is really to ensure that the government is able to put a little more assistance in the hands of our citizens so that they can meet the challenges of high cost of living. I want to remind everybody that it was Nigel Hughes of the AFC that actually recommended that we do the cash grant. We will remember that Professor Clive Thomas had suggested it, and Nigel had actually started to articulate it. And in fact, it was Mr. Barra Jagdio that said absolutely no, that the country could not afford that the cash voucher, which is a kind of a cost of living, a measure to help
a little bit of money in your pocket.
address the cost of living, a little money in your pocket. And so I'm happy that the PPP took that finally on board. And we really do feel within the AFC, as we all know, that it doesn't have to be a one-off in terms of the 100,000. We were to get it in December. It's still going on now and it's March. But something like that, we need a structured program whereby a certain percentage of our oil revenues go straight back to the people of Guyana in some kind of cash grant, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And of course, we give credit to the fact that this year, women that have had a child this year are getting a grant also. And there's special grants for school children, special grants for various other things. But I think we need to focus on how we could put more money in the pockets of our families and women.
Neil, your
Yeah.
thoughts on it?
Kathy, I agree with you. And, in my workforce, most of my staff, they are single parents, single women. Um, and the government, I know in this budget, said that for every child that you have under the age of 18, you'll be given, I think, a $10,000 tax relief.
Mhm.
However, if you're not even working for the government's minimum wage, and that is the vast majority of single women out there, then that measure does not trickle down to them. It doesn't make a difference. Because unless you're paying tax that is above the tax, and you're earning above the tax threshold, only then will it trickle down to you. So so the vast majority of women out there, single parents, single because it's a woman and she has children, and most of them have at least 2 or 3 children, that tax incentive is not applicable to them. So I think it's a good idea, but they need to revisit it so that the masses, the poor people, can benefit from it.
Yeah. Camille, your
Um,
thoughts? I know that you're a businesswoman also, in addition to being a counselor. What would you suggest as some of the things, that we can do as a nation to basically help put food on the table? But that's what it boils down to.
I think what the government can do, or what we will do when we get into government in not so distant future, is to take down the taxes more,
Mhm.
remove the taxes, take it down, and that will help because almost every food item you're paying for in the supermarket, you're paying taxes on it. We are paying, I'm a businesswoman, um, we're paying taxes on chicken feed. And if the tax is removed, we will pay less.
Yeah.
I know I can remember years ago you've been hearing about price control. I think if we go back to price control also, that will help to alleviate some of the expenses, put back some money in our pockets. Because as
I
Nicolette said, not everybody is working, right?
exactly.
So not everybody will benefit from the so-called whatever the government is saying they're giving.
Yeah, I know one of the other initiatives that the AFC has put into the public domain and which it plans to implement here in government is a sort of welfare package that is for each child that is basically tied to certain performance. So, for instance, the child has to be in clinic, the child has to be vaccinated, the child has to be in school, so that the parents continue to get this welfare package. And I think that's a really brilliant initiative. And what it ensures is that persons benefit directly from our wealth. Ladies, I know that this is a very
Trina, we
soul
didn't hear
topic.
from Trina, Bev.
Oh, Trina. Hi, Trina. Where's Nalini? I'm just not seeing Nalini.
We'll see if she comes back. But
mm.
hi, Trina. What are your thoughts?
Hi, Kathy. I think that there should be a regulatory body to monitor the cost of living, the items being sold. Also, if persons are being paid better, they will not feel the effect as much as they're feeling it right now.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
And
That
especially
Well,
as a young
l-
mother,
let me, Bev, let me give you a little one to add to what Trina said. You earn more, so you don't feel it. Well, today, I was having a conversation with someone who is not Guyanese, who's working in Guyana, and he's working in the oil and gas sector. So you think that okay, he's earning a very decent salary. He's new to Guyana, and so today he said to me, "Can you explain to me why the cost of food is so high in Guyana?" He says, "I am from the UK, and this is outrageous. I do not understand how Guyanese are living. How a family of four can put a meal, two meals together, given what you understand they earn. The average Guyanese earns. Now, this is not a Guyanese, not earning what an average Guyanese would earn,
Yep.
Complaining.
living here by himself. And he couldn't believe he went to the supermarket and his first bill was 600 US dollars.
Wow.
He just
And he
couldn't
didn't buy anything
understand
much.
that.
He actually opened
Yep.
his fridge and everything to show me what it was he had bought.
Yep. But
It's
Nicola,
frightening.
it is. I
Right?
remember a couple of months ago meeting somebody from Singapore. And this
Right.
again is a gentleman living here, working in the oil industry. And he said that Guyana the food costs were extremely expensive. He said, you know, what you spend in a restaurant or even in the shops, you would spend a third of that in Singapore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. You're
So
right,
it is,
Kathy.
but we know because just about a year ago, you remember we were looking at the comparisons in the cost of a piece of pumpkin and
Yeah,
how much that
Yes.
had increased, you know?
yeah.
And I know that people complain, well, why are the farmers selling so expensive? But the farmers have to live.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if the
I
cost
mean,
of
that's
living
their
out there is
livelihood.
expensive, they have to sell it so that they can earn enough so they can live. So it's a huge trickle down effect. Um, I don't know. I remember, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember that the reason why GMC was formed was so that
Is to
locally
sort of
grown
control the
cash
price.
vegetable
Yeah.
could be sold at a reasonable price. The government
And
would buy it and then sell it at a reasonable price from the farmers. What
yes,
has
and that
happened to that?
also had the effect of controlling what
The
the
price
private
control,
sector was
exactly.
selling at, you
Which
know.
which is what Trina was saying,
Talk,
you know?
yes.
But
The
unfortunately, usually, especially in recent years, they talk about having a free market and people must be able to determine their own price and that kind of thing. But I think when it comes to food, as Trina has suggested, there's some things that we really should look at
Mhm.
regulating the price. For example, milk. You know, for all the women, we have to buy milk as a staple for our young children. And the price of milk goes up all the time, you know,
time,
depending on what type of milk you're buying. So I think there's some things that, price controls on some items, just like how you would have no VAT on some items also. But maybe we
right?
need to now look at the price itself too.
Zero
And
rated,
Kathy,
I
I'm glad
think.
that you basically identified milk because for a growing child that is an absolute necessity. And
Yeah.
we've had reports that show that some children are just getting two of eight food groups per day.
Wow.
You know, half the
Yes,
children in
it
our
is really
schools, they're just getting four of the eight food
Mm-hmm.
groups. And so our children are not getting adequate nutrition, which obviously would affect their ability to learn.
Yep. I'm in school. I'm being
of
school.
course.
A couple years ago, when I say a couple, it got to be a good 5, 6 years ago, I went to Cuba. I was fortunate enough to go to Cuba on holiday. I'd always wanted to see Cuba for myself. And one of the things, no matter how you bad talk the Cuban government, I found Cuba to be a fascinating and beautiful place. And of course, their healthcare system is superior. We get some of their doctors. But in Cuba, if you have a child between from birth up until 5 years old or 7 years old, they give you free milk every week, which I thought was a very interesting
Brilliant. Yes.
program, you know?
And Kathy, there are, I would say, thousands of programs. You know, we are an all rich country, but I think we are a late all rich country. There's so many countries out there that have programs already. You just need to look at them and tweak it for the Guyanese society.
Mhm,
You don't have to
mhm,
go reinvent the wheel, but
mhm,
you know, people I think turn a blind eye. The government turns a blind eye to the poverty under which people are living. I don't know if you ladies are aware, but do you know that it is so bad that people are now buying, they cannot afford to buy a tub of peanut butter. They're buying it by the spoonfuls. So they go to the shop and they buy a spoonful of peanut butter to put on some bread to give their children.
Yeah.
And when
In an
you
oil
look
rich
at,
economy that does not have a million people, that it
Yep.
just does not make any sense. But that is
you know,
what Guyanese, and you know, I have to take my hat off to women because women will always find a way, no
by the
matter the
way,
circumstances. They will
yeah,
weather it. They will find a way to make ends meet.
Yep.
And
Yep.
now
some
we
women live
have
under some really
the hot
strenuous and
meals. Yeah,
unreal
You know,
circumstances.
Viv,
we have the hot
And
meals
tonight I
program,
take my hat off to them.
which is a good program. But when you see on Facebook some of the meals that they are serving to children, it's just a whole lot of rice, a whole lot of carbohydrates, the vegetables, the fruits, the proteins, you know. Those are the food groups outside of carbohydrates that are so essential. The baby children get their vitamins. They get, you know, what's needed, the nutrition needed to prevent
Of
disease. They
course.
aid learning. You know, those nutritional value, you know, they're not in that meal. And so while the program on the title Hot Meals for School Children is good, more attention actually has to be paid, I think, to what is actually being provided as a hot meal. Camille, I can see you thinking here. What are your thoughts?
Beverly, I just want to give us ladies an example. Today is Saturday. Thursday, I went to the supermarket. This is what I picked up: 2 tins of milk, 2 packs of milk, 3 tins of tuna, uh, disinfectant to clean up, and 3 toilet paper, a small pack of ketchup, and something else. So I went, oh, a piece of cheese, a pound of cheese. So I went to the counter, cash out, and you will not believe what was the price: $8,250
I was going to
for
say
those.
close to 9,000
I
for those
haven't
two
bought
things.
rice. I
Yeah.
haven't bought oil. I haven't bought sugar. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't bought
Chicken.
flour. I ain't buy
And no
chicken.
meat kind.
I
Oh,
No
nothing else.
vegetables.
yeah.
Nothing
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Eating
Yeah.
a tuna. There's the meat.
Yeah.
And
And look,
8,200.
yeah.
And I buy garlic, onion, peas. None of them on the list.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
ladies, tell
But
me,
when the girl checked off and handed me the bill, I stood up there independently and looking at it, one, two, three. It's like I couldn't believe there is
You
the item in this black plastic bag, and there's the amount of money.
pick of
So
money,
you were
I
isn't it?
was
looking you were looking hoping she made a mistake somewhere.
lovely. I was thinking maybe she add two things more than one time or something. My point is persons that have children, and that is the thing that bothers me, because how are they making out?
Well,
How are
I
they
think this
sending
is
these children to school?
I think this is a great time to hear from Trina because Trina, I know you have two boys. And I know that in a household, just from when I was younger with my brothers, they were an eating sensation. So, Trina, tell us a bit about your family and how you manage and what your food costs are like and so.
Okay. So we all know having a big family, medium family, basically, it's not that easy. Food prices skyrocket. You can no longer use an X amount of money to go at the grocery store and get all your groceries. It is double that now. Bringing up my two boys is not easy at all, at all.
And then you see, apart from just providing for the meals, when you at home, when you have to put in the
You
lunch
eat
kit,
more. You eat more.
and a meal like you want to send your child to school with a decent the meal in the lunch kit. You have to send them with a mid-morning snack, then you have to put something in there
Yeah,
for lunch, and
yeah.
possibly if we have lessons in the afternoon, you have to put an afternoon snack. I mean, like, think about the women who work like in the restaurants, those stores there on Regent
The
Street
shift
or
workers.
Street. You know, how on earth do they get by?
Yeah.
And we must find welfare programs, I think, that would help women. But tell me something, ladies. This cost of living, and of course, as women, we pressuring the fathers. We just, the family needs more. Do you think that in some way this is contributing to some of the violence that we see across the
Yes.
families?
Yes. Yes. Definitely. Most definitely. I always give this as an example. I sell bread also. And when you're looking to see the woman of the home coming to get a bread without the money to pay later, you see the man doing it. Because he has his family at home. They're expecting him to come in with that bread to eat.
Yeah,
But you don't have the money. So he gonna
definitely.
come and ask for the bread and he gonna pay you later. Look, for instance, one customer said to me, I only got $200 and the bread is $400. I was like, you gotta eat. Whether or not, you gotta eat. I mean, I
Yeah,
prefer to give them that bread for that $200 and know that when he go home, they ain't gonna got no row. The children ain't gonna staring at him. Than
yeah,
before I said, no, I can't give you. Because how in good conscience you coming back and lie down and sleep and bringing back the bread? You know,
But
it's
Bev,
not even on the men. And it will always have a nagging in the home when things are not right. And that us women, we just find we just nag and we find the things to see as if these men don't have any feelings. They're robots, and that's because the men don't speak out, they don't cry out, so they behave all macho. And next thing you know, we over push it, and the violence come in.
yeah. I
except
mean,
I
like,
don't
we're
I
not
don't totally
excusing
exactly.
that,
I don't
right? But
necessarily
we must
agree.
look at the social ills, the economic situation that could possibly be driving some of this
Yeah.
behavior.
I
You,
think
you,
It's
I
not an excuse, clearly.
I think that the pressures of society affect men and women and everybody in the house too. Because we
yeah,
know too that children pick up all of that. They
yeah,
pick up when mommy and daddy vex and ain't talking or whatever. But I
hmm,
do also want to say that unfortunately, even we have a history of domestic violence that
yeah,
goes back generations. So even when there wasn't as much strain on the society, um, in terms of the high cost of living, we still had a lot of unacceptable violence perpetuated on our women by men. And so I want us to be very clear and understand that no form of violence is acceptable.
Exactly.
A woman is not a punching bag. And I usually say, it takes two to make an argument. And sometimes you have to walk away. I say, and I'm saying this to the men, no matter how vexed, frustrated, wherever you are, when the conversation start to get too heated and you vex and you can't control your temper, go out the door. Go quietly, shut
Kathy,
the door, go sit outside, go by your mother, go on the bridge. Just do not pick up a gun and shoot your wife 12 times.
but Kathy, on the other hand, we as women, we can walk away too.
That's true too. For our
We
own
can walk away.
protection.
Right. When we
Yep.
see it getting overheated, just do not be stubborn and tell yourself you're a woman. Just, you can walk too. You can walk away too. Or you can stay silent. I know it's hard for us women to stay silent, but my mother used to say, drink water, swallow water, and breathe 3 times. Some phrase like that. You
Mhm.
know, we can walk away too.
Yep.
Yeah.
This whole society, when you look at the level of violence in the home, I'm not going to say violence against women because there's also violence against men, there's violence against the girl child, there's violence against the boy child.
Mhm.
Our society is becoming a very violent one. And my way of thinking is that we have to start in the home. I have a little 9 year going on 10 granddaughter that thinks like a 13 or 15-year-old. But even before that age, I've been teaching her that her body is sacred and it is not to be abused, it's not to be beaten on. From in the womb, fathers especially must start playing that role that children are to be protected. Oh my, look at the instances of child rape and oh gosh, and it hurts me, it angers me. I get really heated, really boiled up. My blood start boiling. I soon you might see steam coming out my ears when I think about sexual violence on children. And I'm
Yeah.
talking about girl child and boy child. What how do we return to the value system we had where children were protected, children were cared for, where adults look out for children? What's happening in the head of adults that they can sexually abuse a child, a 4 year old, a 7 year old? Ladies, you talk. I'm getting heated.
Yeah.
Beverly,
And
I
I
think
see, actually, I see Nalini is back. So can we say hi, Nalini? Would you like, we're talking about domestic violence. I don't know if Nalini is hearing us. Could we hear from you, Nalini?
not seeing her either. I'm not seeing
No.
her.
Nilini, you'd have to unmute yourself, please. Nilini seems to be having some technical problems.
It's,
She
yep,
seems to be
yep.
bouncing in
Yes.
and out.
Probably.
Um, if we should continue, Beverly, I think some of the things we can go back to is having, it takes a community to raise a child. And I think this whole thing about not being able to scold somebody's child or talk to them is helping to create or helping these men to do what they're doing. Like, for example, you may see a child, boy or girl, doing something, and you long ago you could have, you could have speak to the
Talk to
person.
them.
You could have make a report to the mother. I know long ago the neighbor beat you. Sometime before you meet home, the other neighbor beat you when they hear the story, and then your parents carry you back there and beat you again. And because we cannot speak to children these days without even being abused by the parent, it's helping to escalate what is going on. Because if like for example, I used to live right here with my grandmother before when I come on vacation. And if she beat me and I go over at my uncle, I could have said, why Alex? You understand?
Right.
And they will now explain to me where I was wrong and where I was right. But now, if the children are not opening up to go to somebody big and say, look, this is what is happening. I I
I
I don't know.
Yeah, I think well, a couple of things I wanted to say. I wanted to say I know that we have a culture of corporal punishment, which is beating children. And I really do, there are laws now against it. And I think because society has changed, you
Evolved.
know,
Yeah.
long ago, you'd never heard of a man, a woman in society, in a community, in a village, abusing children. When we were growing up, we could walk on the road, go down the
Mhm,
road to visit our friend on the weekend, come back up the road at 10 o'clock in the night. And, you know, you knew that everybody knew the houses around, and you could
mhm,
skip and go around and see your friends and
mhm,
skip back. And
mhm.
parents knew that that was okay. Your child would be safe.
Yeah.
So I think
But
we have to recognize that times have changed. And there's so much now, so much more deviant behavior that parents
But
have to be extra careful with their children. So certainly I would not want somebody else disciplining my child in terms of physically beating my
It's good.
child.
Yeah.
But certainly you happen to see a child do something on the road, you know, to say, sweetheart, don't do that, or be careful.
Yeah.
Or if you know the parent to make a
All
recommendation, a call. But of course, also it's how you do it. But I think
mhm,
one of the things that I find worrying nowadays is that you hear reports where children are being abused, and they've told an adult,
yeah.
like a grandmother or the mother, and the mother doesn't believe that the stepfather is abusing the child. You know, women especially, we have to stand up for our children. And so don't assume that it is not, they're not being honest. Assume that they're being
Yeah.
honest. And then it's better to approach it that way than not to approach it at all, to turn a blind eye. And the reality is, I know that a lot of women, and we've had people say this, women are in difficult situations financially. And if the person is the one that is helping to pay the bills, sometimes they worry about, oh gosh, if this
who is
man
going to,
goes and
yeah,
Yeah.
leaves me, how I can manage, then
yeah,
Yeah.
necessarily the safety of my child, of my girl child. So I automatically want to believe that no, this can't be true. But again, we're pleading to the women that they have to stand on a different leg, you know, they have to do right by their children.
you know,
But
Kathy,
what about, Nicola, what about the role of the state in all of this?
well, exactly. That is what I was just
Does the
coming to,
social
Vivi.
worker visit in schools?
Um, they
That's an
have
interesting
truancy
question,
workers, they
Tina.
have
Yeah.
social workers, but I want to look at it from a different perspective. Society has evolved. Society has changed. When I was a child, a younger person, my mother worked, but I had my grandmother there to take care of us. Most women now, back in my days, most women didn't work. They were home so that when the children came home, there was an adult there to take care of them and to give them some guidance and protection. Now, most single women work, and a lot of them work as security guards. So they're out of the house at night when the
Nice.
children are alone. A lot of children are left with an elder sibling, 9 years, 10 years old, to take care of them because there's nobody else there. That, what you spoke about, that community where people look out for each other, it's not there anymore. And I think that if we took a good look and recognized that, okay, our society has evolved this way, then we need to put measures in place. So you can start by simply having community daycare centers. So when children leave school, they can go to the community daycare center, and those daycare centers are open maybe until 7 or 8 in the night, from 7 in the morning to 8 to 7 at night, or 8 at night. So that when parents come home, at least they know that there's some place, and the people who are running it are vetted and screened carefully, that the children have, so the children have somewhere safe to go and not left on their own for hours
Yeah.
at the
Well,
mercy of adults preying on them and people taking advantage of them. Like
I
I
but
think
said,
Trina,
there are lots of
sorry.
things that can be done on a national level. And that is where I think differentiates the AFC from any other political party. You have to care about your people. You have to care about what happens to them. You have to want to help them. And that is what we are trying to do. You have to look at where they have all of these holes that people need urgent help with, immediate help. Where I work, they're talking about, because again, it's the 90% of the workforce are women, young, single women. And one of the things that we advocated for was a daycare center, because a lot of them have nobody. I actually had a staff member come to work one day and said to me, um, Miss Nicola, she said, something she said, and I said, well, where's your daughter? She said, she's at home. I said, well, isn't your daughter 4 years old? Yeah. But I lock up the house, leave some food on the table, and when she can eat, and then when she's tired, she will go and sleep. I said, please go home now. I said, I cannot have you working here under those
Yeah.
circumstances. I would go crazy.
Yeah.
I would go crazy. But this is a reality,
Hmm.
and we have
Look,
to.
and there is where the cost of living coming back, because depends on what that parent is working for, then she has to pay the bills and still pay
Exactly.
daycare.
So that is where the community daycare comes in and stuff like that. It's a
Yeah, but
vicious
they will
cycle.
still have to pay the person. They still will have to pay the persons that are at the daycare,
let's
Daycare.
hear from, let's,
right?
Trina
So
wanted to say
what
something.
can we
yes, Trina.
do? What can we do where that is concerned? For me, if we can try to live closer and better with our neighbors. So if we have to leave, at least the neighbor can keep an eye over. Or at least you may not want the children to go at the neighbor, but if you can have the neighbor come over and, hang
Keep an
out a
eye.
little with them, their schoolwork and whatever until you return.
Trina
That's
wanted to
the
come in here.
For me, that's the solution. That is a part, or an idea that will help the single parent that may just be working for a meager $15,000 a week.
I think Trina had some
You know,
ideas too. Trina? And remember, Trina is the only one of us that got small kids in school right now. So I know
You
she
know,
has,
so we depend on her a lot.
exactly, she will put us in touch with what's happening
It's the
now.
reality now. Yeah.
And maybe Trina would even give us some ideas of some of the things that governments can do to provide more support. Over to you, Trina. Unmute.
Unmute.
Oh, sorry. I was asking if the social workers visit the school, and yeah, that's it.
yes, they do. At least in Region 6, yes, they do.
Yeah, but the social
Good.
workers, they're so overwhelmed with the
Yeah,
amount of, challenges facing children.
yes.
So They may be
you
able to
know,
meet a child once every 3 months or something of this art. It's really a tough
Beth,
job.
Kath,
And Nicola, sorry to
one of
cut
Also,
you.
this,
Sorry to cut you, but you see, these are the things that we just have to advocate. We don't want our viewer to think, and I know we're going up on three-quarters of our program, we don't want our viewer to think that we don't have solutions. And this is
right.
where we recognize the problems, we're articulating the problems. And I just want our viewer to be clear that what we're saying is that we as women want to advocate that more government funds go into providing some of the support services that we need. And of course, we talked about after school programs, we talked about care facilities that you can take your child to where they'd be safe, where you know the people, and they can look after you until until you finish work and can pick them up and go home. Um, you know what? Those kinds of initiatives when it comes to domestic violence, we keep, I know the police are doing some training, but we keep urging them not to turn a blind eye to reports of violence. Sometimes they still say things like, well, it's a private matter. What you do him that he get vexed. That kind of thinking needs to change. I just wanted to raise that they're concrete examples and solutions that we're putting forward. So sorry, Nicola, you were saying something.
So, Kathy, before I lose this thought, I would advocate to our government when we get into power in the not too distant future that we have these government daycare centers where the government will pay the persons that are taking care of the children. So that money will not be coming out of these single parents' pocket.
Yeah.
And for us to build some shelters for women and children that are going through domestic violence because we don't have that. And if we are oil rich, then I think we can afford to have these shelters and we can afford to have these daycares.
Yeah. But just
I
to
have a
correct you there,
question.
Camille, that's
Are
Nalini?
the people in the daycare center going to be trained?
Yes.
Well,
We
of
we
course,
have
you have to vet them. You have to train them before they go into these get the
oh
job.
yeah.
You have to be qualified.
Yeah, we have a few shelters, but it's not enough. And
No,
when
it's not
women go
enough.
into these shelters, they're provided with, to be fair, they're provided with some amount of support. They may even be provided with some amount of training. But very often, so very often, these are not educated women. So the earning capacity of the women, even after they would have been trained, is not sufficient for them to live independently. So that is the odd. So that's why we need stronger social programs, stronger welfare programs that would assist women, if they exit an abusive relationship, an abusive home, they exit with their children, that for a period of time, maybe 3 or 5 years, they have social workers assigned to their case that works with them, that help them to reach that level of independence where they can take care of themselves, take care of their families. I see Nalini, I so wanted to hear from Nalini because Nalini is from Region 6, and one of those areas where there's a lot of abuse of women, a lot of abuse of children. We just not getting Nalini up. Kathy, you have been in the assembly as a legislator for some time. Do you think that the laws are adequate? Nalini, can you hear me? Nalini, can you
The lady
unmute your
mic
mic?
is mute. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems as though every time she tries to unmute her mic, something happens.
I guess only the operator might be able to unmute
Going
her.
back to you, Kathy. Do you think the laws are enough? The laws offer the sort of protection that women need?
Well, I think that we've had some comprehensive laws. We have a family court. I think Guyana has made some good headway. Right now, I heard that the Minister of Social Services is going to be bringing new legislation too. But I think the challenge has been the enforcement, like so many different areas. The challenge has been individuals coming forward. And, when they come forward, it's protecting their rights, protecting, that you don't ever identify the child, or even in a rape case, it shouldn't even be identifying the woman. So, to me, I think the challenge is not what's on the books and in the law, and we are going to improve on it, but it's creating an environment where the person is protected when they step forward and say, I was raped. Um, my uncle has been, abusing me. Able to speak to issues of incest and not be further damaged because they come forward and say, this has happened to me, as we know. It's such a touchy subject that so many families prefer to sweep it under the carpet, don't say anything, don't ever tell anybody. One of the reports just the other day in the newspaper, one of the children confided in a grandmother, and the grandmother said, don't ever repeat it again. Don't repeat it to anybody. And so she lived with it for 8 years.
Yeah, and I've
Yeah,
been hearing through the grapevine. I went to a funeral today, and I've been hearing through the grapevine that that case is some right at my end.
Mm, yep.
Melanie, feel free to unmute yourself and jump in into this discussion at any time. We're 3/4 way through the program and we have not heard from you. And I know you have a lot to contribute on this topic of domestic violence and sexual abuse. So please feel free to join us at any time. Just unmute yourself and join us. Um, Kathy, while we acknowledge the laws and what is there, what we've heard a lot is the slough in the judicial process. And even when it comes to human trafficking, where again, women are the victims, you know, to bring the case to trial, it takes so long, and then witnesses, they move on, they go away, the people want to get on with their lives. How do we tackle this as a society?
Yeah. Well, I see the AG has added more magistrates and judges to the sleuth that we have. But I think part of the problem is that the system is so overloaded for so long. You remember a couple years ago they started to do evening court so
Yes.
that they could try to get rid of the backlog. And I think it is very important that initiatives like that come back into place. There are some very, very petty things too that I think overload the court system. And again, as you know, I'm not an attorney, but I have quite a few attorneys around me in my household. And, there's an accident out on the main road by Providence tonight, and that person is going to have to appear in court on Monday or Tuesday. And in other countries, they seem to have a very good program of ensuring that somebody, there's an accident, there's a police that investigates it right there. For some of the minor cases, they pay a fine right then and
Yeah.
there. You know,
Yeah.
there's a computerized, digitized system so that after 3 incidences, they're able to track your license and make sure that if you were
Suspend.
drinking and driving, after 3 incidences, your license
You
is
take it
taken away.
away.
And it's not like Guyana where you can go pay somebody and get a new license. They track you through your TIN number, through your ID number.
Yes.
And those are the kinds of programs that we need to put in place to protect ourselves.
Nicola, you wanted to add something there?
No, Bev, I was just thinking to myself, I'm listening to all of the different aspects that you're talking about. And it's sad, but in my mind, the only thing that comes to mind is the decay of our society, the
Yeah.
absolute failure and collapse of our society. And all of these things have a domino effect in my mind. You
Yeah.
talk about domestic violence, men not being able to take care of their families. So what do? They get frustrated, they hit women, which under absolutely no circumstance should happen. Children are
Exactly.
abused because women have to leave the home. I'm not saying women should stay home, but they're single parents and they have to make a living, which is fine. I work, never stay home mom. But the mechanisms to be able to take care of your children are not there, and you're not able to provide it because of what you earn. Um, and okay, Ghana used to be poor, but we're not poor anymore.
Yeah.
And it really bothers me that it just seems we seem to be on an absolute decline as a society. And it's so you will have all of these things escalating. Kathy was right. We've always had a history of domestic violence. I think every society has it, so we've had a history of it, but it has gotten worse. I
Yeah.
mean, and I'll come off a little bit here to say you're driving down the road, and driving today is a terrifying thing. You
Yeah.
have people on your left, you have people on your right, you have people at your back, you have people in front, and everybody's just driving as though they all have the right of way.
And boring.
You driving like what's happening to me? And I have to look at my left, I have to look at my right, because both sides people are trying to take you over. Then the person in front is doing something stupid, the person at the back of you is doing something stupid. And I look at it and I say to myself, it's all of this. It's a combination of all of it. And there's no the police. People blame the police force, but they're like the rest of the citizens that say, you know what, there's no law, there's no order, there's no accountability. Nobody's being
They're the
held
person,
accountable
then.
for
They're
anything.
the
So
person.
therefore, I could do whatever I want to do, and it's
Yeah.
it's it's sad. And
Yeah.
and our job in the AFC is we have to restore or begin to restore some kind of respect for law and order,
Community.
Yeah.
respect for each other,
Hmm.
respect for just being Chinese, and we have the resources now. So let us sit down and come up with a comprehensive plan to use the resources to help Guyanese in all aspects of life, in all stratas of life. You know, we have I'm sure they have men who will come and say that they're being abused by their wives. And I'm
Yes.
not advocating for men, but you have all kinds of issues now. And we actually have the means to help our people. We have the
Yes.
means.
Ladies, we have
Instead
five
of,
minutes. We have 5 minutes more.
so, okay, I'll give the rest. I'll hand back over to Bev.
I think
Yes. So,
actually,
so I will go to
Nicola,
Camille so that Camille can basically give me her wrap up thoughts. So quickly this hour has gone. Wow.
and
Camille?
then to Trina.
Beverly, hats off to all us ladies. We could we could talk all night about the things that
Yeah.
are happening because we are women. We like to talk. But I want to say congratulations to the women in Guyana.
Mhm,
We need to tap ourselves on the shoulder.
mhm.
We are breadwinners. We are heads of homes. We are uh,
In business?
guiders. We're in business.
Mm-hmm,
We're doing everything.
mm-hmm.
We are carpenters. We are welders. We are masons. We are engineers. We are
Plumbers,
surveyors. We are
electricians.
counselors. We are everything. And if even if you are a mother at home, hats off to you
Yep.
because you are there to guide the children so that we can have a better society tomorrow. So I must say to you, the single mothers, the ones at home, hats off to you. Congratulations for the job that you're doing. And don't ever tell yourself that you're doing a bad job because there's no manual out there as how to raise a child. It takes a community to raise a child. And we women need to lend some more helping hands to each other in bringing up the children of today. It's not easy, and we need to help each other a little
Well
more.
said. Well said.
Well
Well
said.
said.
Trina, add your
I would
closing
like to
thoughts on
second.
this.
I would like to second what Camille said. Women do need to support each other. I have a little short story. So, too often women are the ones ridiculing and tearing down each other. A simple example of what I'm speaking of in the neighborhood where I live, the female neighbor that lives behind me frequently makes condescending statements about the other females living nearby. On the other hand, my neighbor to my left, who is a young woman like myself, probably in her early 20s, is very pleasant and supportive. If ever there is a situation where I'm unable to be home before my boy, she is always willing to collect them. She would make sure they're ready and set to bed if I'm not home by the time I should or say. She would look them after for me, and in return, when she's not there or at work as well, I would look after her brother for her. So supporting each other is, oh God, yeah, we need to support each other.
Wonderful. Great.
Wonderful.
Kathy?
Well, I just want to really congratulate all the women in Guyana. We have been phenomenal women for generations. Our grandmothers, our great grandmothers did it. We are doing it now in a different way, in a different time, with different technologies, but fundamentally, we have to support each other. I want to say that the AFC has a wonderful plan to provide more for women. We didn't mention our women's bank, but that's one of the centers of things that we plan to create when we get into government later this year. We're going to institute a bank so that women will be able to go to the bank and borrow money for their, whether they're rearing chickens, whether they're doing exports, whatever it is they're doing. So we have a long and lovely future ahead of us. And I say to the ladies, continue to be strong and look after your families. And remember, we're the mothers. So we can make sure we bring up children that are going to be productive citizens. And we know how to raise good boy children. Beverly?
That,
Yes, yes, yes,
that we
definitely.
do. And to add to that, Kathy, it is also, I must let the viewers know that it is also the intention of the AFC and in government to advance women training in vocational areas, especially at the commercial level. You know, our women must be able to not only be able to access a loan from a bank, but they must have the skills. We are now an industrialized nation, we can say. And we want to see more women in vocational areas. You know, as earlier today, conversation with Nigel and I was saying, it's just not about making a few pastries to sell on the road, you know, maybe in a shop, but to be able to do it at the commercial level, in commercial quantities. You know, these are things that we have to advance when in government so that our women are able to take a rightful role in society. And as we're closing, Kathy, we all said kudos to the women. I want to say kudos to those men who have our backs. We
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
depend on you. We appreciate what you're doing. We're glad that you set good examples, good role models, not only for girls but also for young men, training them in terms of what a father ought to be. And
Mm-hmm.
so, kudos to those men, and I want to encourage young men. Today I saw the most beautiful sight. The young woman, she clearly just had her baby, was discharged, and it was the father who was lifting the baby. He had the baby in his arms. So right away, I know that should that young man continue down that front, he is going to be a really great role model for his
Great
child.
father. Yes.
Yes, and so to all the fathers out there, I know it's not easy. And I know we women, we're not always easy to get along with.
Yes, they
Just
need to
like
have some patience with us.
you can't live with us, you can't live without us. I know some might be from Mars and some are from Venus. We're all on Earth together and we need each other. We depend on each other. So let's take care of each other. Let's do more for each other. Let's do right by each other. Ladies, this has been such an encouraging discussion. I'm just sorry that we are out of time, but I want to thank you all. It has been a most pleasant hour. And thank you to DTV and to the women of DTV. I hope you had a great International Women's Day. And let tomorrow be International Women's Day also. Let's look out for each other. Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
all the
Thank
women.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Happy